And yeah, just to kind of underscore that point further, it's like if something, God forbid, were to happen to my daughter or to Tanya, I would not want to be just like meditating in a state of like peace and bliss and just like, ah, yes, everything must pass. I'm perfectly non-attached through the endless swirlings of this Maya illusion, Like, fuck that. That's bullshit. That that doesn't feel real to me. Just feels like uh, a dissociative protection mechanism that a person is using to kind of non-dualistically bypass the human life that they're actually living and keep it at arm's length. Like, kind of reminds me of this saying somewhere, some Zen proverb or something, or Zen master said something like, if you're not able to weep with a person who is weeping, then there is no kensho. And kensho's, one of these many terms for some type of satori, some type of enlightenment. And yeah, I really like that statement. It really resonates because it implies that like the heart is very open in true illumination. And yeah, one is perhaps even more humanly sensitized to the ebbs and flows of the human experience. And yeah, and therefore more attuned to the beauty and poetry of it, right? Because it's just the great richness of the human experience lies so much in the attachment and in the trenches and in the suffering and in the peaks and valleys and in the intricacies and the muck of it all. That's like, yeah, that's where the gold is. And I feel, yeah, I've kind of commented now in relation to grief and personal relationships. How does death relate to grief and personal relationships? Well, my view would be that when close personal relations die, grief is a very natural human response that one is wise to allow and honor and treasure and cherish and to feel fully and to see as a ceremony of paying homage to the love that was shared. And yeah, and as far as general insights around death and what death is, like I say, I don't know what will happen when I die. Yeah, when this version of me physically dies, I have had experiences of a transcendental nature that seemed quite distinctly to go beyond death. Have had experiences primarily with Bufo alvarius or 5-MeO-DMT, which is the active molecule in Bufo alvarius, widely considered to be the most powerful entheogenic substance on Earth, which I worked with some dozens of times by now. Yeah, I had some quite profound experiences of not only ego death, but beyond that, like I mean, it really feels like almost like universe death when you ingest a breakthrough dose of that particular molecule. It's like the entire world, everything you ever thought, everything you ever were, just collapses and dissolves in a matter of seconds, and you kind of smoke this substance, and as you lean back and hit the pillow, the world is already dissolving and almost gone. And yeah, it really feels like so many layers of creation can dissolve with that substance. Like, it's not like just human life dissolves and then you kind of go into like the soul realm or astral realm or some different realms with other types of beings, like with NN-DMT. It's like all of that stuff dissolves too. You transcend further beyond that, kind of beyond the level of individual souls or entities, it seems like, and you go to this, you can go, for me, I've gone to this undifferentiated oneness, which can take the form, has taken the form of utterly indescribable infinite love, light, power, beyond all reckoning, beyond all description, utterly and completely dwarfing any notion or idea that I could have ever put forth or fathomed. It's just so far beyond what typical human consciousness can even imagine or fathom, that it's very difficult to speak about these things. But those experiences impacted me profoundly. I feel that with some of those, there was still even like a small trace of a hint of some kind of I still present in the experience, kind of. I mean, it was extremely immersive. It was really just like oneness, infinite energy immersed in itself. But yeah, some like grain of ego or I persisted in some of those experiences. Although there was one which I had really no memory of when I came out of the experience, but then like maybe an hour later I had like a flashback to it and kind of remembered what had happened, where I feel there really wasn't any grain of any sort of I remaining. And that one went to something that felt even more primordial, in these types of like oneness spaces. It feels timeless, beyond time, so it's a little weird to talk about something preceding something else, but yeah, this felt like even more kind of primordial or preceding even like this infinite energy, infinite love, light, power. Yeah, this was like pre-vibratory stillness. It was just, when I had kind of the flashback to it, where I remembered what had happened, it was just like, again, impossible to describe, but just imagine like the surface of a still pond, like the stillest pond imaginable. Essentially like being inside that stillness, like God in its most restful slumber imaginable, with nothing nothing moving whatsoever, without even any consciousness or awareness of its own existence. Just literally even like pre-awareness, just God utterly and totally at rest within itself, without the slightest inkling of anything, the slightest perturbation or disturbance, or just not even an idea, just absolutely nothing. And yet like the most unbelievable peace, the most just peace beyond all description, beyond all understanding. As they say, the peace that surpasseth all understanding. That's what that felt like. And so, for me, there's this really deep sense of knowing that what I am in my essence is that, because those experiences also, there's just like, they're so, even though that last one I didn't even like remember right after it happened, but I only had like a flashback to it. When you have those types of experiences, there is just they feel more real than real. They feel more real than human life. There's just like a profound, deep remembrance that this is home. This is like the truth of what I am, or something much closer to the. I mean, it's tricky to speak about, because in a sense, what that is right here now, and it's human life is not actually any farther away from that than anything else. This is that right now, and yet also at the same time, it's not, in a sense. This is like, we're in a realm that is much more kind of like veiled with many layers of form, many layers of flavor and texture and apparent beings, and just all sorts of decorations, basically, that kind of obscure that utterly pristine essence. And so there's just a deep knowing for me that essence that I've experienced is what I am, that essence is timeless, that is beyond death, that it was not born, does not die. It's what the world comes out of. It's what the world returns to. It's the most profound, in a sense. Again, I don't really like to measure different types of love against each other, but you could call it the most profound form of love, just that unbelievably restful peace that just is so utterly in wholeness and so utterly at one with itself and utterly at peace with itself that there's not even a possibility of any sort of division within it. There's just not even a possibility of anything other than total, automatic, instantaneous acceptance of every aspect. And yet there isn't even that. It's just, there's not even awareness. There's not even awareness. It's just rest, just pure and total rest, pure and total home. And so I just have this deep feeling that that's what we are. That's what all of this is actually made of. All of us will gradually remember that over time. We all return to that in time and rediscover that it's what we've been all along. We never actually left it. And the entirety of infinite creation is almost just like a spark, like a brief spark or an idea that flares up momentarily within this infinity of absolute rest, deathless, timeless rest. And yeah, so it goes quite beyond like discussions of souls and reincarnation for me. You know, other experiences of mine have suggested strongly to me that we do have some kind of soul, some kind of individualized God spark that lives out karmic journeys across many lifetimes. And that idea still resonates with me. And I like the idea of a soul, even if it's just kind of a metaphor for our individualized flavor or essence of God nectar, of what our more profound true nature is. And I honor my soul, but yeah, this for me goes way beyond that even. I feel a lot of people do use the kind of soul and reincarnation thing as kind of a coping mechanism to not really face the fear of total obliteration of one's individualized essence, of any individual expression of oneself. And to me it's I'm not gonna say that I'm completely like over that fear. I mean, I actually have certain weird kind of neurotic fears of certain scenarios in which I could die. Like, for example, I have some very primordial fear of drowning and of like just being like lost at sea in the open ocean and being kind of swallowed up by the ocean or by some primordial sea creature, or being like tortured to death. Have some of these kind of neurotic fears of specific possible human scenarios where I could die. But yeah, I don't really feel much of a charge when I tune into like my individualized essence being snuffed out, even my soul, even my seemingly quasi-eternal immortal soul. It feels like at a certain point that too must melt back into that which is truly eternal and truly undifferentiated, at rest within itself. And having seemingly experienced that directly and knowing that it just felt like the most sublime peace imaginable. I don't really fear that. And I also feel like, again, this stuff's difficult to talk about. I also just feel like nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is stored within the one divine mind, stored somewhere within. It's all really like a tapestry that's already laid out from the timeless perspective. It's all there. So nothing is ever truly lost in a sense. Those are some of my thoughts, some of my feelings, and I feel death is really beautiful. I feel like it's one of God's great inventions, one of God's great riddles and koans that God has given human beings to chew on and look at. It's a very powerful mirror and riddle. And yeah, I find it actually like just breathtakingly beautiful, like heart cracking openingly gorgeous to contemplate in this moment now. Such a perfect counterbalance to all the activity of life, all the endless activity of life. It's just, we kind of go through a mini death every night when we go to sleep, and it's wonderful that there's this rest to counterbalance all the activity. So yeah, I think that's more or less what comes up for now. Thanks for asking. I feel like that question and you asking it elicited, perhaps the most authentic, deeply felt words that I've ever spoken about death to anyone. So thank you for asking and receiving, and thanks for being my friend.